Hi, I'm Tony, and this is Next Step. In this video, I'm going to discuss the issue of LGBTQ rights in America. After all, it's Pride Month, a very joyous occasion, which is in June. LGBT Pride Month occurs in the US to commemorate the Stonewall riots, which was a riot in 1969, the summer of 1969, that protested against the violence against LGBTQ people by the NYPD or the New York Police. As we celebrate this joyous occasion, there is one glaring fact about the affairs of LGBT rights in America, which is that 50% of Americans live in states with no legal protections for LGBTQ Americans. Now, you might be thinking,
Huh? What the hell?
well, the fact that we don't have such laws is quite a fact, quite the proof that our government is very, very incompetent. But setting aside the incompetence of the government for now, let's look at the consequences of such lack of laws that protects LGBT Americans. Over the years, we have witnessed transgender people being murdered in the streets for no reason, gay couples being kicked out of restaurants because of the simple fact that they are gay, and so much more egregious acts against this community.
Philadelphia's Office of LGBTQ Affairs says this crisis of violence against trans people cannot be allowed to continue. Her name was Mia Green, a 29-year-old trans woman who police found shot in the neck in West Philadelphia.
A transgender woman brutally attacked in Texas last month was found shot and killed over the weekend.
You're kicking me out because I'm gay.
Get out.
You're kicking me out of your car
Get out.
because I'm gay?
Get out.
As we can clearly see in these horrendous instances of violence against the LGBTQ community, the lack of federal laws protecting these individuals has led to disastrous consequences for many. Now, let's look at more damage being done to the LGBTQ community because there is no law protecting them. First, it is legal to evict someone from housing because they are LGBTQ. It is also legal to deny someone service from restaurants because they're LGBTQ. Last but not least, it's also legal to deny mortgage loans to someone solely because of the fact they belong to the LGBTQ community. Overall, 27 states have no discrimination protections for LGBTQ Americans, according to the data from GLAAD, a non-governmental media monitoring organization which advocates for LGBT people. And during the 4 years of the Trump presidency, we have witnessed nothing but attacks from the Trump administration on the lives and rights of LGBTQ people, ultimately putting the most marginalized in our community at greater risk.
The House passed a landmark Equality Act banning discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity.
On February 25th, the U.S. House of Representatives voted to pass the Equality Act by a vote of 224 to 206, with 3 Republicans joining the Democrats in voting for the act. Now, some basics and facts about the Equality Act. First, what is the Equality Act? This act, or legislation, would amend the 1964 Civil Rights Act to clearly outlaw discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity, specifically in fields of employment, housing, credit, jury service, federally funded programs, and also in public spaces and services. Furthermore, the Equality Act enjoys broad support from Americans, including a majority of Americans in all 50 states. Majorities of Republicans, Democrats, and Independents all support the Equality Act. Yet, the Equality Act is still not passed in the Senate. Why? It's mostly because of opposition from conservative religious groups. And with the filibuster still in place, its chances seem dimmer by the day. But despite that, it is important to know the facts when making legislative decisions. And opponents of LGBT Equality Act misled or simply spread lies about the Equality Act in their attempt to stop it from passing. So, let's debunk some of these claims. The first claim that I will be debunking is the claim that the Equality Act will destroy religious freedom in this country. This claim is wrong. Freedom of religion is already protected by the First Amendment to the US Constitution. Nothing in the Equality Act would do anything to change that. In fact, the Equality Act would benefit many religious people, not undermine religious protections. For instance, Islamophobia has been on the rise in the United States. The Equality Act will help combat that by banning the use of no Muslim allowed signs in stores. Of note is the fact that the Equality Act clarifies that the Religious Freedom Restoration Act, or the RFRA, cannot be used as a defense against claims of discrimination. This ensures that religion cannot be used or weaponized as a license to discriminate against marginalized groups. Besides, as you think about it, legal discrimination based on one's faith is an old argument used to discriminate against marginalized groups anyways. Let's make a comparison. On the first instance, or the first example, an Asian person is kicked out of a restaurant because they are Asian and they apparently spread COVID-19. In the second example, a gay man is kicked out of a restaurant because he was being affectionate with his partner. Is there much of a difference between these two things happening? Well, except for the fact that one discrimination case was based on race and the other was based on the sexual orientation of a person, there really isn't much of a difference. They are both bigoted arguments used by homophobic people and racist people to keep themselves comfortable at the expense of marginalized groups like Asians, LGBTQ people, Black people, and brown people. The second claim that I will be debunking is the claim that the Equality Act will make athletics unfair for females. This is also false. Schools across the nation already have policies in place to ensure a level playing field, and they are working fine. Additionally, except for a very small percentage, most students who participate in high school sports don't become professional athletes, despite what Hollywood would like you to believe. The possibility that perhaps one or two transgender students in schools would rob someone of a career opportunity is virtually non-existent. In fact, it is more likely that you'll be struck by lightning. So, conservative people, instead of utilizing this issue to block LGBT equality, how about calling for increased funding for girls' athletics? Because that is the real problem here, not transgender people. The last claim that I'll be debunking is the claim that the Equality Act will allow men to harass women in public restrooms. Now, don't get me wrong. Men harassing women in restrooms is a very serious issue and it should be treated as such. But the Equality Act is not going to be a problem for protecting women's right to privacy. Now, using this argument, senators like Ted Cruz, the Cancun guy, yes, the guy who went on vacation to sunny Mexico while his state was freezing to death, are pretending that they care about gender equality, which is frankly laughable. So, if it was not obvious already, this claim is not true. We already have laws in place that will prevent such acts from happening, and the Equality Act does nothing to change that. Additionally, 21 states already have similar non-discrimination laws in the books similar to the Equality Act. They have had them for decades now. But yet, there has been no increases in public safety incidents in bathrooms since these laws were enacted in states. So, in conclusion, religious conservative people, let's have a debate. But the thing is, you need to bring the facts to the table, not misleading claims or lies that were given to you by Trump. This attempt is laughable. The situation is not in our favor. The LGBT community around this country are still suffering under the unjust laws, or in this case, non-existent laws protecting them. So, please, call your senators. spread awareness about the lack of legal protections for LGBT Americans. 5 minutes of calling your senator might just change the outcome of this law. But 5 minutes of social media, they won't do much. It is past time that LGBTQ people get the equality under law that they deserve. After decades of injustice, the time for action is now.